On behalf of the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, the Georgia Soil and Water Conservation Commission, the Upper Chattahoochee River Soil and Water Conservation District, and Schnabel Engineering, we would like to thank you for your participation in this third public meeting for Settingdown Creek Dam number 4. A supplemental watershed plan is being prepared for Settingdown Creek Dam number 4. The purpose of the study is to assess the Settingdown Creek 4 watershed, evaluate the performance of the existing watershed structure, develop a plan to address compliance issues, determine if federal financial assistance will be available to address the compliance issues, and to determine if the project sponsors would like to continue operation of the dam within the NRCS watershed program. As part of the planning study, a public participation plan is being utilized to inform the public and watershed stakeholders of the planning effort. The planning study requires a series of public meetings. 2 public meetings have been held for this project so far. The first and second public meetings included presentations discussing a brief history of the NRCS watershed program, a brief history of dam safety, considerations for dam design, operation, and maintenance, an overview of the Settingdown Creek watershed and the specific dams included in this planning study, and an opportunity for the public and participants to submit questions and comments to identify scoping topics and project opportunities and concerns. The second public meeting introduced potential rehabilitation alternatives for the dam. The first public meeting was presented on the Schnabel YouTube page between August the 7th and August the 17th in 2020, and the second public meeting was posted from December 18th to January 4th, 2021. Please note that the first and second public meeting presentations have been reposted to Schnabel's YouTube channel for those interested in viewing the presentations and the content described above. After the second public meeting, no questions or comments were received for the Settingdown 4 structure. During this third presentation, we will discuss the following topics: an overview of the Settingdown Creek watershed, existing conditions associated with Settingdown Creek 4, and 3 alternatives that were finalists in the rehabilitation planning process. The first will be a no action alternative, which would be a project that did not involve future federal investment. A future with federal investment alternative will be discussed, along with a decommissioning alternative. At the end of the presentation, the locally preferred alternative will be presented, and there will be an opportunity to submit questions and comments regarding this third public meeting and the locally preferred alternative. The Settingdown Creek watershed is located in northern Forsyth County, Georgia. Settingdown Creek is a tributary of the Etowah River, which flows into the Coosa River near Rome, Georgia. The watershed is approximately 34,000 acres, and the original watershed work plan, which was prepared in 1954, provided for the construction of 15 floodwater retarding structures, which are known as the Settingdown Creek dams. This slide shows a delineation of the Settingdown Creek watershed at its confluence with the Etowah River. The Etowah River is located to the left of this view or to the west. For reference, Georgia 400, the highway, is indicated in the blue line that runs generally north and south near the right or east side of the watershed. Here's a delineation of the watershed overlain on aerial photography taken from the early 1960s. As you can see, most of the land uses back in the 60s when these dams, right after these dams were constructed, consisted mostly of forested or undeveloped lands. And over the past 60 years, there have been several changes in the watershed with regard to development, residential and commercial construction, and things of that nature. The focal points of analysis and study for the planning effort include a study of the upstream areas of the dams, with regard to flooding and potential need for additional storage capacity, downstream areas with regard to flooding and potential breaches of the dam, an evaluation of the hydraulic capacity of the existing spillway outlet works, the performance of the dams and spillways during a variety of storm events, the economic and social benefits provided by the dam, an environmental assessment, including identification of potential wetlands and or species of concern, and a cultural resources study to identify any archaeological or historic items of concern in the vicinity of the project. Here's a map of the Settingdown Creek watershed. There are currently 6 dams that are being studied as part of the planning process, and you can see 5 of the dams are located at the far upstream end of the watershed, near the east end of the watershed, and one of the dams that's in study, dam number 27, is also located near the west end of the watershed. With regard to Settingdown Creek Dam number 4, the dam meets Georgia Safe Dams program criteria to be considered a Category 1 high hazard potential dam. This means that failure or improper operation of the dam would likely result in the loss of human life. The dam needs an operating permit from the Safe Dams program. Previous assessments indicate that the dam does not comply with current SDP rules and requirements. The dam is not exempt from SDP rules and requirements. One purpose of the planning study is to determine if federal assistance will be available to bring the dam into compliance with current dam safety standards. And the Georgia Safe Dams program is fully aware of this dam, its classification or pending classification as a high hazard dam, and that the dam is being studied by the planning team. Original design features of Settingdown 4 include that the dam was not originally designed as a high hazard dam. The purpose of the dam was to mitigate flooding of downstream areas, and an anticipated secondary purpose of the dam was sediment accumulation and storage. The dam currently has a reinforced concrete principal spillway consisting of a riser structure in the lake and a pipe or conduit that conveys water from the lake through the earthen embankment and to the outlet channel downstream of the dam. The dam also has a vegetated earthen auxiliary or emergency spillway located in the left abutment of the dam to convey flows associated with low frequency, high intensity storm events. Here's a map of the watershed one more time with the location of Settingdown Creek Dam number 4 highlighted. As you can see, the dam is located immediately east of Georgia 400 and is within 100 feet or so of Georgia 400. The dam's located east of Georgia 400 and south of Hampton Park Drive. The dam was constructed in 1956 and it's between 64 and 65 years old. It appears on the National Inventory of Dams and has a surveyed height of approximately 35 feet. The drainage area of the dam is approximately 564 acres, or almost 9/10 of a square mile. And the design total storage capacity of the dam is 307 acre feet. Here's an aerial photo taken in the early 1960s, relatively soon after the construction of the dam. And here's a more current aerial photo of the dam and lake. This is a limited topographic survey that was performed as part of the planning study as we evaluated the spillways and performance of the dam. As you can see from the aerial photo, the dam was recently cleared just prior to this aerial photo being taken. The auxiliary spillway is located near the left side of the view. You can see in the lake the gray square where the riser structure is located. And also you can see the proximity of the dam to Georgia 400. For this dam flows through the principal spillway, pipe and riser, or auxiliary spillway inner culverts, and flows are conveyed beneath Georgia 400 from the east side to the west side via these culverts. Here's a topographic map of the dam showing some of the main things that were described on the previous survey slide. We are showing the location of the approximate delineation of some wetlands that are present beyond the downstream toe of the dam on this view. Here's a photograph of the dam taken from the left abutment looking toward the right abutment. You can see in this photo the upstream slope is in the view, the lake obviously, the riser structure, and the crest of the dam. This photo was taken from the downstream slope of the dam looking in the downstream direction. At the top of the photograph, you can see Georgia 400 and the outlet end of the principal spillway conduit, the downstream slope, and the plunge pool for the principal spillway are also indicated in this view. An environmental survey was performed to support the environmental assessment and part of the planning study. There's a screenshot of the aquatic resource survey that was performed. And as a result of the environmental survey, no protected species were found or identified within the project extent. An invasive species, Chinese privet, was identified, and the locations of the invasive species and wetlands and open water are indicated on the aquatic resource survey exhibit shown on this slide. A phase 1 cultural resources survey was also performed for the dam as part of the planning effort. This included a literature review and a field survey. The coverage map at the left side of the slide shows the location where survey transects and shovel tests were performed. No archaeological resources were recorded as a result of the phase 1 survey. The dam, being 61 years old, is the only historic resource that has been identified in the project vicinity. It is eligible for the National Registry of Historic Places based on its age, but our cultural resources team has not recommended that it be listed on this registry, given that the dam doesn't have any exceptional feats of engineering design or construction, and that there are several similar dams located across the United States and Georgia that perform the same function as this dam. As a result of the phase 1 survey, no additional cultural resources work has been recommended. As part of the planning study, downstream flooding, including breach analysis and inundation mapping, were performed. In the event of a hypothetical breach of Settingdown Creek Dam number 4, there are several structures that would be impacted. This map shows the extents of a sunny day breach of the dam and the locations of potential impacted structures that have been identified downstream of the dam. In addition to the dam breach analysis, downstream flood analyses were also performed for the 2-year through 500-year storm events. This map indicates the extents of the 100-year and 500-year flooding from the dam in the watershed beyond the downstream extent of the dam, and also the locations of impacted structures that would have flood waters over the lowest finished floor elevations of those structures. This slide provides an exhibit of the upstream flood limits associated with the dam. If you note the legend at the left side of the screen, the normal pool elevation is indicated in blue. The auxiliary spillway control section is indicated in cyan color. The top of the dam elevation is located in the magenta colored line, and then several different storm event elevations, including the 100-year, 500-year, and Safe Dams program and NRCS design storms are indicated. As you can see, there are several homes or structures that are impacted as a result of flooding upstream of the dam. These structures were likely constructed after the dam was installed, and you can see there are approximately 7 structures that are impacted by the 100-year storm upstream of the dam, and then there's 4 more structures that would be impacted in addition to the first 7 for more intense storm events. Several deficiencies were identified with the existing dam. As stated previously, the dam was recently cleared last summer in 2020. An underwater inspection of the riser structure concluded that portions of the slide gate assembly are worn or corroded. Portions of the riser concrete are cracked or spalled. A closed camera television inspection of the principal spillway conduit was performed in late 2020 or early 2021, and the results of that inspection showed that the interior of the principal spillway conduit is in acceptable condition. With regard to hydraulic deficiencies, the dam does not overtop during the Safe Dams program design storm event, which is 50% of the PMP, but the embankment crest does not provide the required amount of freeboard for that event. Regarding the NRCS hydraulic criteria, the dam does overtop by about 1.7 feet during the freeboard hydrograph storm event, also considered the 100% of the PMP, and the vegetated auxiliary spillway channel breaches during that storm event, which is a deficiency. During the second public meeting, a series of rehabilitation alternatives were presented. We have shortlisted 3 alternatives for this presentation: the no action alternative, a decommissioning alternative, and a future with federal investment alternative for the dam. The no action alternative is also referred to as the future without federal investment alternative. This assumes that the sponsor would be responsible for funding 100% of the rehabilitation effort for this dam. The dam would not need to be upgraded to NRCS criteria, which are more stringent than the Georgia Safe Dams program criteria for this particular dam. And this alternative would either be the permanent breaching of the dam or the rehabilitation to state criteria. And the alternative that's presented for this particular option is based off of the total installation cost associated with either keeping the dam in service or breaching the dam. A decommissioning alternative is required to be studied as part of the planning process. This would be a complete removal of the earthen embankment, stabilization of the excavated channel and resulting lake bed, and would also require consideration for downstream properties which would be prone to more frequent flooding after the dam is removed. The future with federal investment alternative would be an NRCS level rehabilitation and would involve improvements to the embankment, improvements to the principal spillway, and the likely construction of a new auxiliary spillway capable of passing the NRCS design storm for this dam. The development of the NRCS rehabilitation alternative included consideration of storage associated with upstream non-flood control ponds and also uncertainties associated with climate change. The first alternative that we'll look at is the no action alternative. This alternative would involve raising the crest of the dam to provide adequate freeboard for the Safe Dams program storm event. It would also involve slightly regrading the upstream and downstream slopes to a uniform 3-to-1 slope. And it would involve the construction of an armored wave berm along the upstream shoreline of the dam to combat wave erosion. The principal spillway rehabilitation would involve repairs to the principal spillway riser structure, an extension of the existing principal spillway conduit, and the construction of a riprap lined plunge pool at the downstream end of the conduit. The auxiliary spillway rehabilitation would involve slightly widening, and regrading the existing auxiliary spillway to pass flows associated with 50% of the PMP, which is the Georgia Safe Dams program design storm for this dam. For context, the 50% of the PMP is approximately 15 inches of rain over the course of 6 hours. So it is a more intense storm event than the 100-year storm. This is a proposed site plan for the no action alternative. You can see the improvements to the embankment are shown, some regrading, as well as some improvements to the vegetated auxiliary spillway at the left side of the view to address the wave erosion along the upstream slope of the dam. We're proposing the use of articulated block to limit the footprint of earthwork required to install a berm, and the riprap line plunge pool that's proposed is also located at the downstream end of the principal spillway conduit. Here is a profile view of the proposed improvements to the dam. You can see that we're slightly raising the crest of the dam to provide adequate freeboard. You can also see the wave protection on the left side or upstream side of the dam and the proposed plunge pool at the downstream end of the dam. The decommissioning alternative would involve removing the dam so that it would no longer be classified as a dam, and it is more involved than simply breaching the dam. We're not talking about just removing a portion of the dam. It would be the majority, if not all, of the earth fill used to construct the earthen embankment. This would also involve reconnecting the grade of the original floodplain, stabilizing the lake bed with permanent vegetation, and stabilizing the primary channel through the footprint of the old dam with riprap. Decommissioning the structure would improve flooding upstream of the dam, but the benefits, the downstream flood benefits would be lessened as a result. The planning team has evaluated and quantified the downstream benefits currently provided by the dam, as well as those benefits if the dam were to be removed. Here's a site plan that shows the grading and stabilization measures associated with the removal of the dam. Likely the material used to construct the dam after its excavation, a lot of that material could be permanently stored and stabilized in the location of the auxiliary spillway after the removal of the dam. Here's a photograph with an example of what a decommissioning alternative would look like. You can see that the slopes have been laid back and vegetated, and the primary channel through the dam is stabilized with riprap. The last alternative that we'll talk about today is the future with federal investment alternative. This would be a full rehabilitation of the dam to meet NRCS requirements. It would involve raising the crest of the dam to the current maximum water surface elevation associated with the design storm event, regrading the upstream and downstream slopes to 3:1, constructing a riprap lined wave berm along the upstream shoreline of the dam, and closing off or decommissioning the existing vegetated auxiliary spillway. The principal spillway would be removed and replaced. The riser structure would be removed and replaced, and the principal spillway, given its condition, could be reutilized. However, an extension of the principal spillway conduit would be necessary. And this alternative would also involve the construction of a plunge pool at the end of the conduit. To pass the design storm event, a concrete spillway in the form of a reinforced concrete labyrinth spillway would be required. The total spillway width would be 28 feet. The spillway would be constructed over a portion of the existing earthen embankment, and consideration would be given to providing access to both sides of the spillway for maintenance, long-term maintenance of the dam. The spillway would include a concrete chute and a reinforced concrete stilling basin and riprap lined apron to dissipate energy associated with higher flow events through the spillway. Here's a site plan with what this alternative would look like. You can see that the earth spillway that breaches during the design storm now would be decommissioned. The concrete spillway would provide the armoring necessary to pass the flows associated with the design storm event, and the dam would be raised, and the footprint would grow a little bit as a result of the raising of the dam. Here's a profile view of what the labyrinth spillway would look like. The labyrinth weir is located in the middle of the screen. It would rest on relatively thick concrete slabs, and flows over the labyrinth spillway would be conveyed down a 3:1 chute and into a stilling basin. And beyond the stilling basin, there would be a riprap lined apron or dissipation area. Here's some photos with examples of labyrinth crested spillways. This one has a pedestrian bridge over the top of it. This is a relatively large spillway. The proposed spillway for the NRCS rehabilitation alternative for dam number 4 would be a single cycle. This spillway shown has multiple cycles. Approximately 5 cycles are shown for this particular spillway. Here's another example. This is a 2-cycle labyrinth spillway for a flood control dam similar to Settingdown 4. You can see this is taken from the downstream vantage point looking back upstream. As part of the planning process, the planning team has had several discussions and meetings with the project sponsors. And as a result of the analysis that has been performed to date, the environmental analysis, economic analysis, flooding studies, and the performance of the dam, the locally preferred alternative to address the deficiencies with this dam is the future without federal investment alternative or no action alternative. The dam is relatively close to meeting the hydraulic and structural requirements of the Georgia Safe Dams program. So many of the requirements needed to meet SDP, the Georgia SDP requirements, are relatively minor. There would need to be repairs to the principal spillway riser structure, an extension of the principal spillway conduit, the installation of the wave protection on the upstream slope. The dam would need to be raised slightly to provide an adequate amount of freeboard during the half PMP, and the auxiliary spillway channel would need to be regraded, slightly widened to pass that 50% PMP storm event without the dam overtopping. As part of the planning process, public participation is very important and is invited. We would like to give you, the viewer, and other project stakeholders opportunities to submit questions, concerns, and comments regarding the development of the plan, the rehabilitation alternatives that have been put forward, the locally preferred alternative, and any other questions or comments that are of concern to you. Any questions, concerns, and comments may be submitted by accessing a Google form at the web address provided below. The link that is shown here on the screen is not able to be clicked. However, in the comments portion of the YouTube page where this is posted, a clickable link should be available. If not, the link can be typed directly in to a web search page such as Google or Internet Explorer or Google Chrome, and a Google form will be available. We would ask that you would fill out that form in its entirety if you do have questions, concerns, or comments with this planning study or things that have been discussed during this meeting. And we will accept questions, comments, and concerns via this Google form through Monday, July the 19th. Once again, on behalf of the project sponsors, we would like to thank you for your interest in the project and the planning study. We look forward to your participation by submitting questions and comments, and trust that you'll have a good day or good evening.